Welcome to Child's Play by EYR, a podcast dedicated to innovative approaches in education. Join us and our expert guests as they share ideas, strategies, and valuable insights to support the needs of all children. Today we're speaking to Lauren from Bookmark Reading Charity. Bookmark is a leading reading charity committed to spreading the joy of reading through partnering with schools and providing one-to-one support. Let's dive in. Hi, welcome to the podcast, Lauren. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi there, thanks for having me. Really excited to chat to you both today about everything that we do at Bookmark Reading Charity. So I'm Lauren, I'm from Bookmark Reading Charity, as I just mentioned. I'm the Programme Development Manager there. I studied for 4 years in primary education with English, which was really great because I got to do lots around children's literature, which is my particular passion. And then I was a primary school teacher for about 10 years. Then during my time as a primary school teacher, I did a variety of different roles. So I was lucky enough to lead in lots of different year groups in lots of different areas, was assistant head for a little bit, and got really kind of passionate about the English and reading side of things whilst I was teaching. And then when I wanted a new challenge, I decided to move on to, and the position came up at Bookmark Reading Charity, which is really exciting because it was something that I could then continue to support children and still develop that passion for reading and introducing children to the love of reading as well. Because we exist to change children's life stories through the joy of reading by partnering up with schools to develop their whole school reading culture and provide one-to-one reading support. So I was really lucky to actually join the charity and support in that way and still be able to actually make a difference in education as well. I'm the Programme Development Manager, so it means that I'm involved in making sure our work stays up to date with the latest and best practice in the education space, so that the support we offer to schools is relevant, is purpose-driven, is impactful. And that includes looking at our resources and making sure that those are all interesting and exciting for the children and the volunteers that read with the children as well. But it also includes looking at how we can support schools further with their whole school reading culture. It's a really, really exciting part of the charity, to be honest, because we're continually growing as we find out more ways to support schools with their reading culture.
As you've mentioned, it is really important that children are reading and that schools have that reading culture in their community. We've seen that more than 1 in 4 children are unable to read well when they leave primary school. So could you tell us a little bit more about the impact of that?
Exactly, as you mentioned, it's that 1 in 4 statistic of children being unable to read well when they leave primary school, which is quite a shocking and sad statistic, to be honest. It means that they face difficulties within school with many subjects across school whilst they're actually at school. But it also means that they will struggle beyond that as well. So they struggle with other aspects of their life. So it has a devastating impact on their life chances. People with poor literacy skills are more likely to be unemployed or in lower skilled jobs. 43% of adults in England don't have the literacy skills they need to understand their everyday health information, which is obviously quite a devastating statistic to know that people in the UK are unable to actually understand something as important as their health. And life expectancy is vastly reduced as well for those born in communities with the most serious literacy challenges. Really interestingly, low literacy actually costs the UK economy £81 billion every year. So it is actually something that we really want to tackle from an early age with children, so that not only, it's something that you would expect us to be able to put that time and money into if it costs that much to the UK economy, but also we want to make sure that every single child has that life chance, a fair chance in life. So it's really important that we kind of tackle that early on.
Those challenges are really lifelong, and I think the ripple effect is on the families as well. I think it's really interesting to hear the story of your founder.
Sharon's story is really inspiring, and she's an amazing woman. And we were starting in 2018, and she had that simple vision of we want every child to ignite the joy of reading. This was inspired by Sharon Pinder's experiences herself, her kind of life experiences. Whilst growing up, Sharon learned the devastating impact of poor literacy. So her mother was unable to read, which meant that she couldn't do the basic things that, you and I would take for granted in everyday life. So she wasn't really able to apply for the benefits that she was entitled to. Simple things like writing notes to school for Sharon, cooking for recipes, she wasn't, able to kind of read those notes, and actually reading with the children that she absolutely adored as well. She found it really difficult to find a job because she lacked the confidence to challenge people when she wasn't treated fairly. And Sharon has used this experience to kind of ignite this really exciting charity and try to make sure that every person has that opportunity to be able to read. It's incredible. I mean, I don't do her story justice, to be honest. She tells it in such a way that it's very emotional. It's very passionate. Her passion drives everything in the charity, and it's amazing to hear her talk about it and talk about her life experiences. Because there are 7.1 million adults in England who struggle to read and face those challenges like that every day. So it's challenges at home, challenges on the move, in the workplace, and with their friends and families. So as the point I keep pushing, it's really important that we help to tackle as much as we can from a really early age, so that children do have that fair chance in life.
And one of the ways that you're helping children tackle that and helping tackle the reading difficulties from an early age is by linking schools with local volunteers. And we heard about this one volunteer called Diana Iddles, who's 91 years old and helps children develop their reading skills from her living room. Can you tell us a little bit more about her?
The lovely Diana, from one amazing woman to another, she's a fantastic support to Bookmark Reading Charity. She continues to read with children every single week. As you mentioned, she reads from her living room. She's a retired teacher. She lives in a care home in Wolverhampton, and she helps children ignite that joy of reading, literally from her living room. She does our online reading program, which is amazing, and that means that she's able to read with 5 pupils a week, which is incredible when you think about it, that she does that. And she calls it a privilege and a gift to get to read with them, which is really, really sweet. She said it's also filled a really huge hole in her life after the death of her husband, made life worth living. She says she's got purpose, and it's really rewarding, which is so lovely to hear, because that's one of the benefits of our reading program, is that obviously we want to help support children, but it's also really lovely to hear those stories from our volunteers as well, to hear about how it supported them and how it's giving them a bit of purpose or giving them something to be excited about each week. She was even invited to attend the Christmas nativity at one of her pupils' schools as well, and she's actually been able to meet one of her pupils recently. There's an interview on our website with her, which is really heartwarming to see as well, to kind of hear about her experience and everything. But we're very, very grateful to Diana and all of our volunteers for their continued passion to ignite that joy of reading for our children, because it's so, so important to have volunteers who are willing to give up their time and share that passion, because all of our volunteers are so engaged with reading themselves and love reading themselves. And that's what we want to kind of rub off on the children as well, that kind of passion for reading and that joy of reading as well.
I think the benefit is just two ways. It's just for the volunteers and the community that you set up in general, and even the teachers who kind of see that benefit in the classroom work that they have as well. Aside from all the volunteers that you've amassed, what other projects and resources do you offer?
We offer quite a lot to our schools, our partner schools, and the schools outside partnering with us as well. So everything that we offer is to try to develop schools' whole school reading culture. So we want schools to really value our partnership. So we have our school packages, which includes the wonderful Story Corner magazine, which is an in-house magazine with stories, like information pieces, activities, that's illustrated by the wonderful Sarah Harrison, and it's incredible. And I love working. I'm kind of part of the little team that does that, and it's an incredible little thing that we send out to children. We often, the person that leads on it, Karen, who's amazing, she makes sure that those go out sort of before the holidays, so that children have something to read over the holidays, because that tends to be when you see a little bit of a dip in reading. So those are all fantastic and have some amazing stories in them. We have our book packs that we call rocket packs that we send out to schools as well. Those are all curated by different authors or different organisations that have created certain themes, like books to make you smile, for example, or non-fiction books, or books around kind of Earth Day. And those get sent to all of our partner schools as well, so that they can kind of put a little boost into their library. We have grants that schools can apply for, so reading for pleasure grants, project grants, CPD kind of training grants for teachers as well. And we also have the Comic Book Club, which is a personal favourite of mine, which is where we send schools, certain partner schools, kind of a bunch of graphic novels, up to 40 graphic novels. We send them all the resources that they need to run the club. We send them the teacher booklet, which means that teachers and TAs can just pick it up and run with it. And the children get to read lots of different graphic novels and create their own as well. So that's what we kind of do with our partner schools. We also provide free book packs to non-partner schools as well in specific areas. So we send up to £2,000 worth of books to different areas of schools as well. We have grants that schools can apply for as well. We have free online reading resources for teachers. I mentioned the Story Corner, but that not only goes to our partner schools, it also goes out to hospitals, pupil referral units, children and family support groups, food banks, as well as to support children across the country. Schools have actually cited us as well in like recent Ofsted reports as an example of good practice, because we've helped to boost their whole school reading culture further, which has been really, really exciting. And before I was a program development manager at Bookmark, I was a school relationship manager, and I got to speak to schools and help them with running their programs. And it was always such a joy to meet with them and hear about the kind of individual children or groups of children that have been positively affected by all of the things that we send. So not just the reading programs, but the books, and how, you know, it becomes a bit of an event in their school when they get this box of books, and all the teachers firstly are scrambling over them saying they want them in their classrooms, and then all the children are desperate to take them home. And it's just so heartwarming as well to hear about children who, you know, who are particularly quiet in class that have blossomed and bloomed, and like it's helped their well-being, it's helped their confidence. So that was always a real highlight, hearing about how all of those wonderful things that we get to offer to schools actually support the children.
I can imagine how it does become such an event, because I remember being in primary school and even high school, and when those the book trolleys used to come around, and we could take £1 with us and like the little voucher that came with it, and go and choose a book. And I remember that was such a good day. We also did the One World Book Day that I remember us doing. We used to do this thing where we'd choose a teacher in the whole school to read us a story. And I had this one teacher, Mrs. McCartney, who's such a legend. And she was obsessed with the Mr. Men and Little Miss books. And so every child in that school flocked to go see her. Yeah, I can imagine getting a box of books in school would be really exciting for a lot of children.
It's interesting that you said about, you know, you remember getting to choose to go to teachers to read books. I remember doing that as a teacher. And actually, you know, each year getting to choose a really exciting book to share, which was it always took me months to decide which book, because I always had loads of books that I wanted to do, but I used to love doing it. And we got to stand up, you know, in assembly and kind of sell our book to the rest of the pupils, and then they would like sign up and come, and you could do a little workshop with them, so you get to read the book and then do lots of fun activities. And it really built on that reading for pleasure aspect.
So I can imagine that obviously the services that you offer are quite in demand, which I suppose could be quite challenging. What other challenges does the charity face in promoting children's reading, and how do you combat that?
You're completely right. We are in high demand just because schools can see the value of that one-to-one reading that happens, and the amazing volunteers that they get to read for the children. We've definitely noticed that with the kind of cost of living crisis, that's put a lot of pressure on families and schools, and in particular for us volunteers. So we've noticed a correlation between that and a bit of a volunteer kind of shortage, with more people, because more people are moving from part-time to full-time work. More retirees are having to re-enter employment, and more students are having to work alongside their studies as well. So to combat this and to make sure that we still can support all of our schools, we're trying to diversify our volunteer pool through our Reading Mentor programme, which is where sixth form students can become reading volunteers and read with primary age pupils, which is a really great opportunity for younger pupils to have fantastic reading role models. So it's a way to kind of help with the sixth form students as well, because they can put those on their UCAS application forms if they're doing sort of Duke of Edinburgh volunteering as well. They can put it on that, but it also means that they get to give back to their community as well. And for the younger children, just having that someone who's a bit closer to them in age as well, and someone that they can see is passionate about reading and is a really good reading model. So that works really well. And then we're also reaching out to our corporate volunteers as well to ask them to support, alongside, you know, still looking for our usual pool of volunteers who are willing to give up their time. But it's really interesting to find different ways of kind of diversifying our volunteer pool to make sure that we can still reach that demand.
How do you measure the impact of all the positive things that you're doing?
We make sure to do lots of surveys and interviews as well. So we collect information from teachers about their perception of the changes they observe in the pupils that are on the reading programme. We also collect data and volunteer perceptions as well, to see the change that they observe in the pupils that they volunteer with. We look at pupil attainment data, so at the beginning and the end of the academic year when they've been on a reading programme, to see their reading progress. And we also do individual case studies, which is, some of the things I was talking about earlier, where we get to explore the impact of the programme on specific pupils, which are always a complete delight to read and hear about. We make sure to kind of collect all that data so that we can monitor closely and identify where our programmes are having the most substantial impact. And we also look at the broader school initiatives as well that we do, such as Your Story Corner, where we boost people's libraries, schools' libraries across the country. We collect pre and post intervention data from those schools as well to understand the impacts and the changes that they notice. It's been really great this academic year to see the really positive, it kind of reinforces that positive impact that we have in our schools. 95% of our teachers notice an increase in the reading confidence of pupils on the reading programme. 91% of teachers notice an increase in the reading enjoyment as well. We've had 3 out of 4 volunteers notice their child's reading confidence as well. And over half, so 65% of our volunteers also noticed that reading enjoyment increasing too. We've also seen an increase, so 80% of teachers noticed an increase in the reading skills of pupils on the programme too, which is all just ties into everything that we want to support.
Like you said, you mentioned reading for pleasure. What tips would you have for reading for pleasure in schools?
There's so many different techniques and advice out there at the moment. The Open University actually do lots of content, and it's fronted by Professor Tahira Kremen, who's the leading educator in reading for pleasure pedagogy. She's incredible. There's lots of advice around how reading should be led by children, so lots of opportunities for them to have social interactions around books so that informal talk can take place, or book blether, as Teresa would call it. And their children need to have that option of high quality and diverse reading resources that reflect the children's lived experiences and the kind of many different types of books out there to tempt children. So graphic novels, I mentioned the Comic Book Club earlier. That's one way that's helped to open up reading to lots of different pupils. So some tips could be, if it was in classrooms, maybe introducing a variety of different class stories that the children could choose from. And if you do that before a lunchtime or before a break time, then it encourages that talk in between break, where children start to go, oh, I really liked that book and I wonder what's going to happen into this. And they start having that informal social book talk, giving children choice around how they read. So whether they want to literally lie on the floor, go on beanbags, go under the table, if they want to read like in pairs, if they want to read in a little group, if they want to read independently, just gives them a bit of autonomy over their choice of reading and how they'd like to do it. You can do things like book shopping, where you might put out lots of different books around the table and children can go around and browse and then write down the books that they're interested in and go back and choose them later. Or if another person's got the book, you can have a list. One thing that works quite well is if you have a really popular book, having a list of children that write their names to say, I want to take it out next. And then it encourages children to see who's had the book before them and they can chat with each other about it. There's peer recommendation things that you can do. We could have post-it note walls where children write the name of the book and a little reason why they enjoyed it and stick it on the wall, and then other children can go over and have a look. There's things like reading sleepovers or reading evenings maybe that you can do with hot chocolate. So they bring a book and they can even have the lights off and have a torch. And that could be something that, parents can do as well, where they set up a really lovely reading space where they live to be like, this is a special reading place, and making sure that their children feel excited when they go to that place and they start reading. Showing that reading is everywhere as well is really, really important. So it's not just, it doesn't have to be physically sitting down with a book all the time, and it doesn't always have to be, we're going to read at this time every single day. It can be out and about, like reading signs. It can be reading a recipe and then creating something together. It could be reading instructions and creating something together. So kind of giving that idea of like reading is everywhere.
I really like the idea of the hot chocolate evening. I think we should do that. Yeah. A lot of the ideas that you've mentioned, Lauren, are great all year round, but one of the most exciting kind of events in the school calendar is World Book Day. Do you have any thoughts on kind of, there is the dressing up aspect, but making it more inclusive as well, so the focus is as well on the reading? I think it gets sidetracked sometimes. I think that's what we've heard from parents and teachers sometimes.
Of course, it's lovely to do the dressing up, and it's lovely to kind of get involved in that way. I think when it works best is, I know, Katie, you mentioned about your World Book Day that you remember from a child, where the school did that whole event of creating something, and I think that's when it works best, is when there's more to it than just coming to school dressed up. Today we're going to actually do lots of activities around reading and link it to lots of other literacy things, maybe link it to other things in the curriculum. I think it works really, really well if reading is kind of the core of that day, but including looking at other books and giving children opportunities to talk about books and share books, giving children opportunities to see lots and lots of books out there as well. So I've done events before where we've asked children to bring in, on World Book Day, they bring in a book themselves that they've read, they've enjoyed, but they're happy to kind of give up and give to someone else. And then they go and put it in the school hall, for example. And then we ask teachers to bring in books as well, and head teachers and everyone to bring in books so that there's lots out there. And then children bring in one book and then they can choose another book to take home as well. And that's just a really nice, exciting way to do that, and avoids, having to put any cost on books as well. So book fairs are wonderful, and that's something that we're looking to explore and work with our schools with as well. But sometimes there is that pressure of the costs around it as well, particularly as I mentioned with the cost of living. So I think World Book Day is amazing, and their website has so many incredible ideas and has lots and lots of things on there to do. It's quite nice as well to make it maybe like a week-long event and not just necessarily the one day. You could have the one day where you dress up, and that could be where all the really exciting activities are, but trying to kind of spread them out throughout the week and use some of that pull and that excitement to kind of spread out across the rest of the year, including, inviting illustrators, authors, poets and things like that in as well. And I mentioned our Story Corner magazine. We've actually got some exciting World Book Day content in that one in the upcoming issue too. So that's been quite exciting to work on that and make sure that that's kind of linked to the reading culture in schools too.
As some final thoughts, what would you say would be your key takeaways for our audience?
The reading for pleasure is something that is so important. And with all the statistics about the number of children that are unable to leave school reading well, and the number of adults in the UK that are unable to read well themselves, it's so important to spark that joy, to ignite that joy of reading in children at such a young age, because we want children to read. Reading is a gateway to so many other things in life, not only just out of interest and curiosity about finding more out about the world, but as we've mentioned, it does affect your life chances as well later in life as too. So it's incredibly important to spark that joy from a really young age. I think we've mentioned the demand as well for volunteers. I think for us that is something that's really, really important, and the online and face-to-face volunteer-led programs that we do are incredibly important and mean so much to the children that read with the volunteers. It's incredible hearing their opinions of their volunteers, and how some children are really reluctant to speak to others in school, or reluctant to speak to people that they don't really know, but with their volunteer they are super excited to jump onto that call to see their volunteer that day and tell them exciting things about what's happened, and be really excited about the books that they're reading and chat to them about everything as well. So I think that kind of volunteering, if people are able to, is amazing. And our kind of online volunteering platform is really inclusive. It's flexible. It means that people can volunteer at different times in the week and days that actually work for them. And if people are interested in that, then please do visit bookmarkreading.org/volunteer and encourage your workplace, your friends, your family to explore volunteering.
It's so inspiring to hear. I mean, I really want to volunteer.
Me too.
Yeah. So if schools and people who are listening do want to get involved, you mentioned where they can go to sign up. Where else could they go for more information?
Just go to our website, bookmarkreading.org, and there's lots of information there about Impact, the different projects that we run, and ways to help too. So please do go visit that.
Well, it's been so lovely chatting to you, Lauren.
It's been lovely chatting to you too.
I feel so inspired after that chat with Lauren. What were your key takeaways? Just in general, the way that Bookmark Reading Charity are promoting that kind of reading for pleasure, and how simple it is to do it. So it's just twice a week, 30-minute sessions, and I think my takeaway is I should sign up. What about you?
I think my key takeaways are just how not being able to read impacts people's lives. I had no idea, because I think when you think about reading, you think about reading a book, reading a fiction book, but you don't think of all the things like Sharon's mum not being able to write her a note for school, or being able to read about the benefits that she was owed. Yeah, my key takeaway is that it's imperative that children are inspired to read from a young age. Thank you again to Lauren for speaking to us today.
Let us know your thoughts on today's episode by getting in touch with us on our socials.
Be sure to follow us and leave a review.
That's all for today. Bye!